Hi guys, my name is Steph, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm here to share with you a few books that I bought because of Booktube. Stay tuned at the end, I'm going to be doing a smaller Booktube channel shout out at the end of every video for the next 29 days. If you'd like more information on what's happening over the next 30 days, please check my previous video, Books Beside My Bed number 3, for more information. I have 8 books to share with you today. There are 4 fantasy/magical realism stories, as well as 4 science fiction books. And a lot of these you've heard me talk about before because they're books that I absolutely loved, but they're absolutely books that I picked up because of Booktube. And I'm going to start with the number 1 book, which is one of my science fiction picks. It is The Martian by Andy Weir. Now, this was a book that I was never ever intending to pick up because I thought the concept actually sounded quite morbid and depressing about a guy being stuck on Mars with no way of getting home. However, after starting Booktube and watching plenty of Booktube videos and people absolutely raving about this book, I decided that I'd pick it up, just to see why everyone thought it was so great. And I started reading it on a bus on the way home, and I could not stop myself laughing while I was reading the book, and I couldn't put it down till I finished. So it is definitely high up there on my favorite books of all time, but also one that I'm so incredibly grateful for Booktube for making me pick it up and read it. In the same vein is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I probably wouldn't have picked this book up in a store because at the point when I read this, I wasn't reading a whole lot of science fiction, or I hadn't for many years, and this was one that everyone was talking about and everyone said was fantastic. And it isn't your typical action adventure science fiction book. It is really about characters, it is about family, and it is about how people work together in extremely difficult situations. And it's just sort of this wonderful slow burn of a story that I absolutely adored. Then there is Illuminated by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and this one was definitely a book I bought because of Booktube, because at this point I wasn't reading young adult. I would have seen this in the store, and even though it's a great cover, I probably wouldn't have picked it up because I wouldn't have had any clue what it was about. The fact that the sheer size of the book, I probably wouldn't have even flipped through it, but when people said, hey, this book is awesome because of the format it's told in, I actually went in, I had a look in the store, and I decided to buy it. And I absolutely don't regret doing that because this is one of my favorites young adult science fiction series, and I cannot wait for Obsidio later this year. And the final science fiction book that I'm going to share is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Now, I'm going to be honest and say I don't love it as much as I love the other 3 books because it's a different type of science fiction. It's a real dystopian science fiction, and I'm not the biggest fan of dystopian books. I do read them, but they're not always my favorite. But this one came very highly recommended, not only from Piero, who was the reason that I read it, but also from other people on Booktube who said, no, actually it's really good, you should definitely pick it up. And I'm glad that I did, I'm glad that I've read it. I'm hoping to continue the series soon. So yes, thank you Booktube for this one. Moving into my fantasy reads. Nevernight by Jay Kristoff was a book that just got so much attention on Booktube. It was really interesting, and I really didn't know what to expect going into it because even though I heard people talking about it, I wasn't paying that much attention to it. That said, when I did pick it up, I absolutely loved it. I loved how dark and gruesome and gritty it was. I loved that Mia is so determined as a character, and I love that it doesn't have this happy ending and you are left wanting more from the series. I picked up A Court of Mist and Fury, or really ACOTAR and then A Court of Mist and Fury, because of Booktube. Although I'm holding this one up because this is the one that I love. I can take or leave the books on either side of this one, but this one I really enjoyed just because it was really engrossing, and it's not without its problems. Absolutely it has problems, but whatever it was about this story that gripped me, it gripped me hard and I couldn't put it down. Shock horror, A Darker Shade of Magic is on here, and you guys know that I love this one, and I would never have heard about it if I hadn't been watching Booktube. I wouldn't have heard of Victoria Schwab either because it's just one of those things. I think unless you're actively involved in a book community, you don't always hear about what's coming out. This is one of those books that I do recommend if people like fantasy. It's not super high fantasy, but it's sort of a good bridge between the two. Again, also not without its problems, but it's definitely one that just captured my attention. And finally, Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire, which is sort of magical realism. It's not super fantasy, but sort of in that same vein. Again, it is children who go through portal doorways. You guys know that I love this series. I've got all 3 books now. I've read all of them and I will continue to read this series. They're short novellas, and I'm putting this one in here because this one isn't sold physically in Australian bookshops, or at least I've never seen it sold physically in Australian bookshops. I've had to order them online. I find that really disappointing because had I not known about them through Booktube, I would never have known about them at all. And that makes me so sad because these are wonderful, wonderful, easy to read, beautiful stories, and I can't help but love them. So those are the books that I read because of Booktube. And now for my smaller YouTube channel shout out. I'm shouting out my good friend Amanda from Cook Read Create. I've talked about her before. She's absolutely wonderful. Definitely check out her channel. I will leave it linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments, what is one book that you read because of Booktube? I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.